Hey guys, how's it going? It's Jay from Sony Alpha Lab, and in this quick video I have the Sony RX100 VII in front of me. And what I'm going to show you is focus modes, pretty much. How to focus with this camera. I'm going to go over all the basic settings to get you going. This video is beginner oriented, and it's for those of you that just got this camera and you really want to know how to use it better. Before I get to that, please hit that subscribe button below. I really appreciate it. Also hit that notification bell. That will make sure that anytime I come out with a new video, you will get an email letting you know, oh, new video from Sony Alpha Lab is out. If you don't hit that bell, you're not going to get that email. Subscribing doesn't just do it. And then in addition to that, below the video, there's a description area. Make sure you go to that description area and then hit the more info button, or sometimes there's an arrow if you're on a mobile app. You open that up and all the information about the videos that I produce are below that. There's killer links in there for photography deals. All the gear I'm using in any given review or tutorial is in that description area below the video. And I really appreciate the support by clicking those links. It helps me out. So let's get on with this video. So by default, when you take this thing out of the box, it will automatically recognize faces. So you can see I have these little characters set up in front of me, and it's automatically detecting the faces. Now, if you move a face, the camera will pick it instead of the other face. Notice that? So now it just picked the face on the left, and it's automatically going to detect the eye. You can see the little eye focus point coming up there. Now watch what happens when I move this one. If I get it closer than the other face, so now this face here is now closer to the camera than this face, it automatically becomes the priority. And look at that, it's focusing on the eye. And now if I turn it like this, it's going to focus on the other eye, like so, or it's going to focus on the eye I can see. And then if I move this one back further away, it's still going to choose that face because it already had that face locked on. Now if I start moving this face around, the camera's going to see it and it's going to pick it. See that? So now this face became the priority because it's closer to the camera and started moving. So the camera is going to choose faces as priority as far as the focus goes. Otherwise, if there's no faces in the scene, it will pick whatever object is closest to the camera that it can focus on, and it'll choose that as the focus point. So if the camera is automatically focusing on something because it's close to the camera, like my hand, for example, you can then override that using some of the more advanced focus features. So what am I talking about? Well, right now I have it set to AFS mode. That stands for autofocus single shot. So it's going to lock. Right now, when I press the shutter down halfway, you could hear it beep. Now the focus is locked. So now if I move the camera, the focus will not change. It's locked on that point. That's what AFS stands for, autofocus single. Now what you can do is you can change that. So if you go into the menu here, you can change your focus mode, and it's on page 5 in camera 1 up there on the top left, you can see. So if I click this, you can then change your focus. And now we have automatic, AFA. Automatic basically will automatically choose between AFC, which is continuous AF, and AFS. So AFA is a great place to start if you don't want to really mess with the settings and you just want the camera to do all the work for you. AFA is a good place to go. But I want to switch it to AFC so you can see the difference. All right, so now I'm in AFC mode. So now look, I'm going to lock on, and the focus is going to track the eye. You see how the focus is automatically tracking? And now if I move my subject, the focus is going to track. It's not just going to lock on and stay there. It's continuously focusing as I hold the shutter button down halfway. You see that? So if you have an AFC mode and you decide you want the focus to lock there and then turn the camera, it's not generally going to work. In this case, it's tracking the eye, so it is going to stay there. But if you're in like a landscape scene and you focus on something and then you want to reframe your image, it's not going to work in AFC mode. It's going to continuously track when your subjects move. It's going to lock onto something and just track it pretty much. And it works really well. So that's what AFC is for. Now, let me go in here and I'll show you a couple others. You got direct manual focus. So what direct manual focus means, it'll autofocus like normal, but once the thing locks, once the shutter locks, you could then directly control the focus by turning the focus ring, and in this case it's the lens zoom ring, but in this mode it defaults to focus. So you can focus and then fine tune it if you want to. So you would use this mode If you're taking pictures of flowers or something like that, and the focus is locking, but it's locking on the wrong part of the flower and you can't get it to lock where you want, you can just focus like this. You can turn the zoom ring and it acts as the focus ring, and you can dial in. And notice how it zooms in on the image so you could really get it nice and close. So that's what direct MF stands for, direct manual focus. Now let me go in here and show you, this is just manual focus. So manual focus, you're going to turn the lens zoom ring basically, or the lens ring, and you can just manually focus and change the focus wherever you want it. So that's what these settings do. I'm going to put it back on AFS for now, and I'm going to go to focus area. Now focus area is basically what part of the sensor you're using to reference the focus. So right now, wide mode is using basically the whole screen or the whole sensor for the most part. It's like 85% of the sensor or whatever. So it's going to use the whole area to focus. And when touch focus is enabled, you can just touch and it'll focus where you touch, like so. So that'll limit your focus to where you touch. And then notice up here on the top, there's a little X there. You just selected a point on the screen there. So this X will cancel that, so you can unselect it. And it's set to tracking right now. I'll show you that feature in a second, focus tracking. But I wanted to show you the different areas first. So if I go to focus area and then you go to zone, you could then select your zone by moving these points around. See that? So if you want to limit your focus area to just the upper left, for example, and you don't want the camera to focus on anything in this area, you would use zone focus. Really, really powerful the way that this works. And you can just select that like so. And now my zone is set to that square grid there. Let me go into menu here and I will scroll down. Now you have center focus. So center focus, you could see that little rectangle grid came up. It's only going to focus on what's in that area. So if I go over here, see how it's not focusing on the face? Even though it sees the face, it's not focusing on the face because it's not within the rectangle. But if I had it in wide area mode and was doing this, it would focus on that face. So center is a great way to limit your focus area to just the center. That's how that works. Now let me go into menu here, focus area. Now we have flexible spot. Now this is basically a little box just like that center, except you could move it around, and you could also change the size of it. You have a large version, a small version, and a medium version, and you just go left and right on this little directional pad here in order to change the size. So if I go to medium here, now I could move this around. See that? So I can put this wherever I want on the scene, and the camera will focus on that. So I want it to focus on the chair in the background. It's just going to lock on that area. Really powerful feature. And I use this feature all the time for selecting specific areas. But since the touch to focus came out, I don't use it near as much. Touch to focus is really the future. You just touch and it focuses. But these are the modes I wanted to show you. Now you have an expandable flexible spot. This is very similar to the one I just showed you, except it'll automatically expand. This mode is great for tracking moving subjects when you're like a bird flying or something like that, and you're trying to track it, but you can't quite keep it nailed in that little area. It'll expand out of that area for you, and it'll help you in situations like that. It's a very good feature for moving subjects, I find, in particular. And if you hit the function button, this little button here that says FN, a lot of these settings are in here by default. So see, you have focus area and focus mode, and you have drive mode. So focus area is what we were showing. So let me go back. This is tracking expandable flexible spot. Let me go back to wide mode. Like so. And now notice how it's going to pick the faces. No matter how I turn this thing, it's always going to pick that face because it's using the whole sensor for the focus reference area because I'm in wide mode. Now let's go back into the menu and I want to show you a couple other features. Focus area limit. If you go in here, you can change the different focus modes that will appear when you go to the focus area. So basically with the focus area limit, you can just make your menu a little less confusing when you go into the focus area modes, just by limiting those options by unchecking them. Now I wanted to show you this one here, face/eye AF set. If you go in here, you can turn your face priority on. You remember how I was showing you earlier how the camera prioritizes faces? Well, you can turn that off right here. If you don't want that feature enabled, just turn it off there. Now subject detection. I have it set to human, but you can now select pets and animals. So it'll automatically focus on the eyes of dogs, cats, and other animals, which is really awesome. But you have to change that in here depending on what you're shooting. Just so you know, if you're having a hard time and it's not tracking your pet good, switch this over to animal mode. And you can decide whether you want the right eye or the left eye, or just have it to auto. And then the face eye frame display, that's that square that shows up right here. That square, that's the face, so it's letting you know that the camera sees a face. And then animal eye display, you can choose to have that on or off, and that's what that is. Now, pre-AF is another autofocus feature. What pre-AF is, basically when you're not holding the shutter button down, the camera will automatically focus on what it thinks it needs to be focused on, even though you didn't press the shutter to focus it. That's pre-AF, so it'll think ahead for you and focus on what it thinks it should be focusing on, even though you're not pressing the shutter halfway to focus. So you might want to turn that feature off. It'll save a little bit of battery life, but in addition, sometimes it's just a pain in the butt and you don't want it to do that. So that's what pre-AF is. Now there's a couple more advanced features I'm not going to go into in this video because it takes a while to explain, but AF area registration is one of those features. You can register an area and then you can assign it to a button, and you could focus quickly to that area by hitting a custom button. And that's great for sports and things like that. If you want to get the pitcher and then you want to get the catcher and then the pitcher and the catcher and you need to change your focus point quickly, you could use that feature for stuff like that. And then display continuous AF area. That's just if you're continuously focusing on something, the focus points will continue to illuminate the whole time. Phase detection area, that'll just add more dots to the screen if you want to see all those points. It makes it a little bit confusing though, honestly. All right, so a couple other things I wanted to show you while we're in here is drive mode, because this pertains to when you're taking pictures of sports and stuff like that. So if you go into the drive mode settings, you can also get to them from the function menu here. Function menu, drive mode. Now, why this is important is because if you want to take sports and stuff like that, or a moving subject, you're not going to want to have it on single shooting. You're going to want to put it on rapid fire mode. And in this case, it's called continuous shooting. So if you hit right and left, you can change the speed of this and the camera will continuously shoot when you hold the shutter down. So if I put it on mid mode and you focus, it's going to shoot like so. And that's what the drive mode does. In addition to that, you want to have it in autofocus continuous. So if I hit the function button, you go here to autofocus mode and you switch to autofocus continuous. And now this will shoot rapid fire and it'll also track your moving subject. All right, so now I have it set to continuous shooting. So let me show you a couple other settings quick. If you keep scrolling to the right here, here's face registration. So this is the area where you can program faces in. So you can register your kid's face, for example. If your kid is in a group of kids, you can register your kid's face and then the camera will prioritize that face amongst all the other faces. So you know your kid's face will always be sharp, for example. Fantastic feature, and that's where that is. It's really good if you're taking pictures of groups of kids and you want to prioritize your kid. Now I'm in movie mode here. And I wanted to show you there's a couple AF settings in movie mode. You can change your drive speed in movie mode. So that's how fast the camera will transition from one focus point to another. And sometimes you might want that slow. Sometimes you might want that fast for a more cinematic effect. Slow will be a much smoother transition from one point to another, which is great for filming, dramatic focus transitions. Fast, it'll go much faster. So if you're trying to track a moving subject and, you want it to focus really quick for an action scene or something like that, depending on what you're filming, you would set it to fast. I have it set to normal for now. Tracking sensitivity, it'll basically track more quickly. So you would want to have it on responsive if you're trying to track a high-speed moving subject. And standard is what I normally use. And standard worked great, by the way, when I was filming Layla on her bike.
You see that I'm moving?
Just so you know. But you can always change that to more responsive if you're trying to film like a football game or whatever. Now, if we keep going to the right here, we're going to get some more options. Zoom speed, you can make that go faster if you want for filming. Doesn't really have anything to do with focus, though. I wanted to show you the focus mode options. Here we go. Touch operation. Now this pertains to touching on the screen for touch focus. Right now I have it set to tracking. Touch focus is basically you just touch and the camera will focus where you touch. Touch on the car, focuses on the car, touch on the image in the background, the person in the background, and so forth. That's touch to focus. And that little option up there is to cancel it. All right, so let me go back to menu. And now we have touch tracking. This is the best feature. I recommend leaving it here pretty much most of the time. I'm going to select on that car. So now the camera just chose that car as the subject. And you can see that little rectangle is staying on the car. See that? So even if the car moves, it's going to track it. Look. Oh, it just switched to the face. So this is an area where you might want to turn the face priority off, but you could see how it's tracking the car. You see that? And it just switched to the face because that's set to a priority. So you can turn that face priority off that I showed you earlier, and that will prevent this from happening, how it's switching to the face like that. All right, so let's go to touch shutter mode. And this mode's great if you want to just touch the screen to take the picture and you don't want to move your hand up here to hit the, the actual shutter button. So now we're in that mode. We'll just hit this center button here, and then we'll hit menu to get back. Like so. All right, so I'm going to focus on this face, and notice on the top right there, there's a little button. So now touch shutter is enabled, and if you touch, it'll take the photo. So you can actually turn touch shutter on and off with that little button up there. How cool is that? This is an awesome feature. I really like it. And you can, again, turn that off, and you could then just use the camera how you normally use it. So it just becomes a little icon on the top of the camera so you can use it whenever you want. I don't really use it that often, but it's definitely a cool feature, and a lot of people ask for that in my tutorials. It's a common question. How do you do touch to focus? Touch to focus. That's how you do it. You turn it on and off with that little button, and then you can just touch around the screen, and bam, bam, bam. That's pretty much all the basic concept settings as far as focusing goes on the RX100 VII. And again, you push the shutter down halfway to focus, and then you hit the button all the way to take the picture. So if you guys want to learn more and you have questions about autofocus on the Sony RX100 VII, be sure to ask questions below the video in the comments area. And I really appreciate you checking out this video. I will catch up with you guys next time, and please have a wonderful day.